Hello once again, watchers of good TV. My name is Nick Pell, and this is once again coming from my college dorm room. Now, today I'm going to be talking about the third series of the BBC show Sherlock. This finished up its first season about mid-January in the UK, and then just finished up in the US last Sunday. So, as of when this is being posted. And so yeah, let's talk about it. Obviously, there will be spoilers from the first two seasons of Sherlock. If you have not seen those, I would probably say don't watch this because there will be spoilers obviously from that. And then I will also be tackling the ending to season 3 after the credits of this video, so stay tuned for that if you want to see my thoughts on episode 3, His Last Vow. Now, getting right into it, we have Benedict Cumberbatch returning once again as Mr. Sherlock Holmes. He is still the self-proclaimed sociopath that he is, and he's still a great actor, a great character. You cannot dislike Sherlock Holmes when he is on the screen. He just has a likable quality and a person that you would not think would be likable. Yeah, John Watson is back once again. Martin Freeman portraying him, and he again does a really good job. It's cool that these two actors were able to work together on another project, that being The Desolation of Smaug, and you just see them back here again, still doing this show after they become big names in Hollywood. It's just a really cool thing to see. Mark Gatiss returns as Sherlock's brother Mycroft. He is still the head of the British security force, whatever that is over there. He still plays Sherlock's opposite. It's really interesting when they have scenes together because we have this battle of the wits. Mycroft is older than Sherlock, and by like 7 years, I think. And so they were always competing with each other as children to see who would be smarter and who could think up situations and analyze things the best. And so you still see that dynamic in them however many years later. And then we have a new character introduced during Sherlock's time away. John met a woman named Mary, portrayed by Amanda Abbington, and she is a character who will more than likely be in the show for quite a few seasons because she's a very interesting character, and she does eventually become John's wife. She has kind of a secret, which they'll talk about in His Last Vow, but otherwise she plays a very sweet and nice character. She's very loving and loyal for the most part, and just really cares about John, and it's really a good thing to see. So, getting into the plot, I'm talking about the first 2 episodes right here, and then after the credits, I'll talk about the series finale. So the first episode is The Empty Hearse. This takes place 2 years after the events of the Reichenbach Fall, in which Sherlock was seen to have died by John's eyes. I don't think it was ever really shown how Sherlock survived this fall. There are a bunch of situations that they thought up in which it could have happened, including like a bungee cord and an air mattress type of situation, but I don't think Sherlock ever actually reveals how he survived the fall. At least I didn't see anything along those lines. I wouldn't be surprised if Gass and Moffat just took fan theories and just incorporated them into the show and just did that to kind of do a fan tribute. But Sherlock does return. He has given John no reason to think that he is alive for the last 2 years. John has moved on. He has found Mary. He's about to propose, and Sherlock shows up at his restaurant, and John just loses it. He is extremely pissed off because he's been dealing with this emotional trauma and struggle for the last 2 years, and has finally gotten over, accepted Sherlock's death, and then Sherlock comes back into his life. And then from there, there's some bomb in London, which is going to go off. Sherlock and John have to go and find it. They do, and the situation is dealt with. It is a very tension-filled episode towards the end because Sherlock doesn't know how to disarm the bomb. At first it seems that way, and then there's all this back and forth things because they think that they're both going to die, and then Sherlock ends up playing John. He called the cops, and he disarmed the bomb and everything like that. And then we get to the second episode of season 3, which is the Sign of Three. And this is the marriage of John and Sherlock. I thought this was probably the weakest episode of the series, just because it wasn't really strictly a case like we saw with the first 2 seasons. It took place during the wedding. It was basically Sherlock recounting a bunch of different failed cases that had occurred, and then they all accumulated into a guest at the wedding, namely the photographer. It was interesting how it happened, and it kind of fed into some of the stuff that happened in his final vow. But I don't know, the whole time it just felt like a special, like an extra bit that wasn't really necessary. I would have liked to see maybe 10 minutes of the wedding, Sherlock give his best man speech, and then move on to a case of some sort. I don't know. It was just kind of, I don't want to say boring, but boring. Since I don't want to get into the season finale of Sherlock Season 3 quite yet, because not everyone may have seen it who's watching this, I'll be talking about that in about a minute after the credits of this video roll, so stay tuned for that. As a whole, I did really enjoy Sherlock Season 3. It was interesting, the story was really creative. There were some slow parts though, such as the Sign of Three, like I said, but besides that episode, like it moved at an interesting pace. It was a little bit interesting, but I was just expecting something much different, and it just didn't do that for me. Like, favorite, comment, and subscribe if you so choose. I'd appreciate it immensely. And as always, my good people, my name is Pell, and once again, keep on watching. And if you are still here watching me, you are here to see my thoughts on the ending to Sherlock Season 3. Now, this is talking about his last vow, so if you have not seen that episode, I urge you not to watch this yet, because you will have things spoiled for you very quickly. So, getting right into it so I don't take up half the video with this. We are introduced to a new villain, Charles McNusson. We saw a little bit of him at the end of the first episode of the season, and we saw him overlooking John being dragged out of the fire by Sherlock, and he comes into full fruition here. He is essentially a guy who has a mind temple, what was it, mind vault, I think, in his head, just like Sherlock does, and so he has all this information in his head, and he uses it to blackmail people. He just remembers everything, and he just uses it to blackmail people. He has these spectacles, which are able to show him the pressure points of people, or things that he can use to take advantage of them, and he's just a very, very interesting character. So John and Sherlock have to deal with that. The episode starts out really interestingly. We have John going into this cracked inn to look for a friend of his. He ends up finding Sherlock there too. It's been alluded to throughout the first 2 seasons that Sherlock may have had some sort of drug addiction at some point. He relapsed for a case, but he still relapsed, and we see him kind of deal with that, especially an addiction to morphine, after he gets shot. So I'll get to the next big part. They break into the guy's tower security area, and Sherlock is confronted with a person putting a gun to the guy's head, and Sherlock interrupts, and it's Mary, and she is pointing at Sherlock. She shoots him, and Sherlock goes down. It was a really interesting sequence when Sherlock got shot, because he's just going through all these things in his head. He's like, what way do I fall down? How do I avoid dying of shock? How do I do all this stuff? And we see this huge inner monologue that's happening in his head. And it was a really interesting sequence to watch, especially when Sherlock's in the hospital and it looks like he is dead because he flatlines, and then he's in like a conversation with Moriarty in his head, and Moriarty mentions John, and Sherlock just wakes up and he leaves. He fights for his life, and he ends up living. And it's just really interesting how at the beginning of the show Sherlock was so alone, and he didn't really care about many other people, and now if if John's in danger, John is like one of his only friends in the world, Sherlock will do anything for the guy. And so we see that in a very interesting and cool way in this episode. And then we deal with Mary. Mary has ended up being an ex-assassin, and she has a very good accuracy with her gun, so she ended up saving Sherlock instead of killing him like she could have. So John has to deal with that, deal with the fact that his wife is a killer and not exactly who she claimed that she was. Although Sherlock makes a really interesting point, he says that John is addicted to these kinds of things. He's addicted to high tense, serious, stressful situations. That's what he's drawn to. That's why he went to the crack den. That's why he can't stand and sit around for a week without doing anything exciting. And it's just the lifestyle that he's drawn to. So it makes sense that he would fall in love with Mary. I thought that was just a really interesting point that Sherlock made, and it talks and speaks a little bit about John's character. And then we get to go to the final scene of this whole shebang. Sherlock and John go and see Charles Magnuson, I think. And he's played by Lars Mikkelsen. I didn't say that earlier, but he's played by Lars Mikkelsen. Does a really good job with the role. They confront him. They learn that his mind temple is where everything is stored. There's no actual files available, and so when Sherlock is confronted by Mycroft and his platoon of soldiers, Sherlock makes the choice to save Mary from being compromised by shooting the guy in the head, killing him, and destroying all evidence of Mary's past, besides that which she has. He essentially sacrifices himself for this. He sacrifices himself. Once again, he basically gets a death sentence because of it. Mycroft has no real choice but to punish his brother, even though he really doesn't want to, for his crime. He committed murder, and he is not the innocent little boy that he knew anymore. And so Sherlock and John, they say their last goodbyes along with Mary on the tarmac. Sherlock takes off in a plane, and just when that happens, we have Moriarty's face being plastered everywhere, and with his voice saying, "Did you miss me? Did you miss me? Did you miss me?" And Sherlock is gone for 4 minutes, and then he goes right back down because Mycroft's like, "Yeah, we need you back, sorry." And so that's where the episode ends. I personally don't think that Moriarty is alive. You can't really survive a shot to the head very easily, and from the look that was shown on his face in the end of season 2, he's probably dead. So it's more likely someone's just using his face as a front for some bigger operation. Yeah, I'm very excited for season 4. I have no idea when it's going to come out. I hope it's next year. I doubt it will be. But, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, let me know what you guys thought of Sherlock Season 3 in the comments down below. Let me know your predictions for Season 4. How do you think things will turn out? Do you think Mary will play a bigger role because she's got these skills that she can now use without fear of John leaving her? Or will she just kind of take a side role like she has for the majority of this season? Like, favorite, comment, and subscribe if you so choose. I'd appreciate it immensely. And once again, mega people, my name is Nick Pell, and as always, keep on watching.